Hello, everyone, and happy Halloween. It's the best time of the year, best day of the year for me, somebody who enjoys all things a little bit spooky and wicked and dark sided and unsettling. I wanted to make a Halloween inspired piece, just inspired by the holiday and the fall vibes, as well as, help continue on my journey to get better at digital art and put myself out there. So that's what you'll be seeing in the background of this video while I talk about my favorite spooky things, my favorite Halloweeny things that I enjoy seeing in horror media, things that give me like the very specific heebie-jeebies and that hit every time for me and make me unsettled, and stuff like that. First though, we're going to talk about the piece that I'm making in the background of this video, because oh boy, did it take so much more effort and so much more time than I expected it to take, but I finished it. Here it is, and I'm decently satisfied with it, I guess. Am I being a little hard on myself? Probably, but also that's kind of what I do and what we do over here. So whatever, just ignore it. It's fine. I like it. It's cute. I like it. It could just be better. So the inspiration for this piece is kind of like those vintage illustrations that you would see on a vintage Halloween card, where it's like a cute lady in a cute outfit. I have no clue what the costume or the inspiration for this outfit is. I just wanted to draw somebody in ruffly shorts with an ornate vest and maybe make it look, vaguely circusy, but not exactly circusy. You'll see as I continue to draw this and continue to color it. Now that I've thought about it a little bit more and looked at it, I guess the vibe would be more theater than circus. Either way, I just wanted them to look like put together, like they're about to go and put on a performance of sorts in like a dark room with a bunch of people that are a little bit frightened but also incredibly intrigued. And I think I sort of achieved that. And oh my god, why the thing that took the longest for me making this piece digitally is figuring out rendering and how I wanted to render it. Why is it so hard, as somebody who's used to a more traditional form of making art, to figure out how to render something that looks good digitally, as good as it would look if I rendered it traditionally in a way that makes sense? Like, oh my god, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. What I ended up doing was going for a cross-hatching method. And originally, as I started cross-hatching to bring out the shadows and render this piece and like the skin and the clothing, I just let it get completely out of hand. I went from only using the cross hatching to render and like blend the shadows to deciding, oh, this whole thing is going to be cross hatched. So the whole thing is shaded by cross hatching. And it took so long. But I felt like the piece looked flat without it. And I wanted it to give like textured, especially with the cloth and like the tights and the ruffles and stuff. But oh my god, did it take so long. And I'm so glad and lucky that I didn't get carpal tunnel from this, because it was just the same motion over and over and over again. Like, it was, once I got into the zone, it was kind of soothing and fun, but oh my god, wow. And then after all the time I spent cross hatching in order to try to figure out my style or my preference for rendering as far as digital art goes, I'm still not completely satisfied with how it looks. I still think it looks flat. So I'm still figuring out how it is I want to go about rendering the pieces that I make, but I don't regret cross-hatching this piece, because I think it was a very good learning experience, and I do want to incorporate cross-hatching a little bit when it comes to shading for my digital pieces, because I think it looks good. This was just not exactly the way I wanted to implement it for a full piece, because I feel like it ended up still being kind of flat looking. But enough about my critiquing of my art and what it does or does not look like. Let's talk about fun Halloween stuff. Let's talk about fun horror tropes that I enjoy and that I can never get enough of when it comes to consuming my horror media. To begin, I love folk horror. I love folk horror so much. It's literally arguably one of my top 3 favorite genres in horror, and I feel like there's not too many of them, and it's such a shame because it's so fun to me and so good to me to take a story or like stories that have been passed down through generations from different cultures of people and explore that and what it might be and what it might mean. Like, it's so good to me. And another thing I love with horror is when they, like, of course, when they cross and blend genres. So let's say there's like a folk horror, but they put a little bit of science into it. Not too much though. Not too much, because I feel like if you start explaining something too much and giving like a creature or an antagonist too much explanation, they kind of lose their scariness. That's my hot take. But I do enjoy when they take something that would be supernatural and make it a little bit more biological and put a little bit of animal in there, and like the way that it attacks people or the way that it operates and the way that it hunts and stalks. That's so good to me. I can never get enough of it. Need more of it. Yes. Another thing that I feel like we need more of: more aliens, more aliens, more aliens. I love the Alien movies. I love the Predator movies. I love the world building. I don't know. I like science. I like science, but I also like spooky stuff, and I like a little bit of supernatural stuff. I like all of that mixed together. But I love aliens, and I also love eldritch horrors. Like eldritch presences, things that are just embody the concept of something that you can't give explanation. That's so good to me. Points if the Alien movie takes place in space and they're just trapped on board in an already hostile environment with an even more hostile entity or creature. 10 out of 10. I need more of that. It's so good to me. It's so good. I don't know. It activates my fight or flight in a way where, because a lot of the times when you see horror movies, you're like, oh, I could do better in that situation. I could do better in that situation. Personally, I could not do better if my adversary was in space and I was also in space. Like, there's not a lot you can do in order to have control over that situation. Like the loss of control, when in a lot of movies and media, humans are seen as like the very top of the food chain and capable of overcoming everything. When that control is taken away by something bigger and more capable and incomprehensible, it's so chilling to me in a way. And I will always love movies that have that sort of vibe. I also love a good, not the people or the characters are haunted or possessed, like the place itself is haunted or possessed, or like the house is alive and is coming to eat you. My earliest introduction to this trope was Monster House. I don't know if y'all have ever seen that movie. It's a really good Halloween movie for kids, even if it did traumatize and scare me. But I think that's where my love of the trope began. So now, as an adult, when it comes to things like the book House of Leaves, love that book. Highly recommend it. Or Haunting of Hill House, one of the best horror TV shows I've ever seen. Absolutely destroyed me. I was both terrified and emotionally distraught in a way that I did not think I was capable of. Another movie that does that really well, but it's not a house, it's kind of like, it feels like the forest is alive and is coming to get you, is the movie The Ritual. I highly recommend that movie. I think it also comes back to that feeling of helplessness, because how do you fight a place in order to survive? It's kind of hard. And that's why I really enjoy like watching it, because it makes me feel like I'm there. I always try to put myself in the place of the characters on screen, and if I feel like as helpless as them, then I'm like, this is a great horror movie. That, to me, that helps make a great horror movie. Let's see what else. Oh, creatures that mimic. Absolutely, it's gonna freak me out every time. I don't know if it's like the primal caveman part of my brain that it just reacts with absolute bone deep horror and disgust at the prospect of it, but it's gonna get me every time. One of my one of my favorite classic horror movies, The Thing. That movie, did I watch it probably younger than I should have? Yes, I did. I'm grateful for it now though, because while at the time it gave me nightmares, now I'm like an adult and it just gives me personality. The practical effects in that movie are phenomenal, and it's also a great use of that trope of mimicking and not being able to trust the people around you, the things you see, your surroundings, which kind of also goes into another thing I enjoy. I love psychological horror. To me, there are very few scarier things than what your mind can convince you of and what your mind can make you believe or see, even if that's not true or it is true. Like making you doubt your senses, which is like our very base levels of understanding things, is always going to be an absolute hit with me. And I think a lot of people, because I feel like it's so universally unsettling and scary. Side tangent that's still related, but also I already talked about it previously. You can see here as I'm cross hatching it, on the piece, it does give it depth, but it does it like the contrast to me, especially like on the legs with the satin tights. I feel like they look soft, but I feel like I could have gone darker with some of the colors that I used to shade and give them dimension. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being picky, but art's subjective, whatever. Anyway, let's get back on subject with Halloween-y stuff and horror stuff. I kind of also love the environmental trope in horror, where it's like the environment itself is what's scary. Like the environment against whoever the main character is. Like when it's really, really cold outside and you can't see past your eyes because the snow is blowing so thickly, and there's something out there with you, but you have no clue what it is. When things are super dark outside, like, oh my God. I know this is probably a controversial opinion. I really loved Skinamarink. I will never, ever, ever, ever watch it again, though. It absolutely terrified me. And I think part of the reason why it terrified me and resonated with me is because, as I mentioned before in my previous video, I was an anxiety-ridden, imaginative, paranoid little gremlin of a child. And Skinamarink, to me, felt like I was looking through the eyes of how I saw the dark in nighttime when I was just a little wee lamb. Like, I recognize that it's not for everyone, and I also realize why it's not for everyone and why not everybody enjoyed it. But it's one of those things where I feel like if you get it, you get it. Like as a kid, I also had really bad nightmares and night terrors, and it felt like I was watching it was put on screen exactly how it felt to me in that moment. It just took me all the way back. You can't see hardly anything throughout the movie. I couldn't tell you what was going on or who the big bad of the movie was. I just know that it was just there, and you could feel it there, like watching over and overseeing all of the bad stuff that happens. That also ties into the previous trope I was talking about, where it's like the house is alive or the place is haunted and it's coming to get you and you can't get out and you can't escape. So good. That's another reason why I really enjoyed that movie. It didn't over-explain itself at all. It led you to come to your own conclusions about what's going on, and whatever you came up in your mind to explain why it is that these kids are trapped in this hellscape with some sort of, I don't even know what it was, is so much scarier than giving you a straightforward explanation. I love when horror movies just really let your brain absolutely run wild with assumptions and let you make theories and all of that. It gives so much room for creativity, and it actually, I feel like it adds to the universal enjoyment of the genre. Another thing that I would love to see explored more when it comes to horror movies that are being made, I want to see a good, spooky, oppressive underwater horror movie. Now, I am well aware that more than a few have been made. I have seen more than a few, and it just didn't seem too good to me. I feel like the potential that it had wasn't met. I feel like it has the same opportunity as like horror movies set in space does, which is being around in an impossible, oppressive environment that will kill you if whatever goblin ghoul does not kill you. Like, you have to not only fight the environment in order to survive, but also the villain and antagonist, or the monster, the big bad in the movie. I would love to see more horror movies explore underwater themes such as that. Still Wakes the Deep is not a horror movie, but it is a really good video game. Did not like the DLC too much. We're not going to talk about the DLC. But the base game is so good to me, because I mean, as you probably could have guessed, I'm afraid of deep water. Me personally, if I can't see the bottom of the water, I'm not going in the water. So the ocean has always freaked me out and like simultaneously fascinated me, the same way that space does, where if I think about it too hard, I start getting a little short of breath. But yeah, I would love to see more actually good horror movies take place underwater. Ooh, another thing I enjoy a lot with horror movies, like the Smile movies. I love a good paranormal virus. Apparently they're supposed to be making another one. But anyway, that's the end of my yapping session. If you have Halloween plans, comment down below. I'd love to read them. I'd also love suggestions about, the type of stuff that you guys want to see more from this channel and hear from me. Also comment the horror things that freak you out, and the horror things and the horror movies and suggestions that you would recommend and things that you like. That's going to be all from me. I'll see you next time when I see you, and thank you for watching this very long video. Bye now.